Roll Tide, hello again everybody, this is Roger Hoover, glad to welcome you back to the Crimson Tide Sports Network, and it's time for Crimson Drive. It's our weekly show, Thursdays at 2 p.m. Central, right here on the CTSN social media channels, including Facebook and Twitter. We're glad to have you with us again for this weekly show, Crimson Drive. It's proudly presented by Regions Bank. Make sure you get your new University of Alabama National Champions Visa check card and checks from Regions Bank, the official bank of the SEC. Just go to regions.com/GoBama to order yours today. Another busy time in Crimson Tide athletics as the basketball team is nearing an SEC championship. We've seen wins for softball, wins for baseball. Everybody's been in a winning mood lately. Women's basketball, they're in action tonight. They've won 3 straight, so it's time to take a look at the headlines and see what, first of all, is coming up on the show today, Crimson Drive. And coming up, speaking of women's basketball, Araya Copeland will be our guest. We have already visited with Jasmine Walker. Now another senior joins the show as Araya Copeland will talk about her journey to Alabama, plus what her senior year has been like. And then soccer's back in action. We'll be talking with the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Wes Hart, followed by the volleyball coach here at Alabama, Lindsay Devine, as her team did not play last weekend, but does return to competition coming up this weekend against Mississippi State. And then last night it was Alabama falling on the road to Arkansas. So we'll hear the post-game press conference from Crimson Tide head coach Nate Oates. So speaking of men's basketball, first up on our headlines today, it was a loss last night. 81-66 was the final score. If Alabama had won that game, they would have clinched the outright SEC championship, something that the Crimson Tide have not had since the year 2002, but we'll have to wait just a little bit longer still. Can clinch at least a share coming up on Saturday when Alabama plays Mississippi State. Great performance last night by Jordan Bruner. Second game back for the Tide, really looked strong, especially with his three-point shot, knocking down 4 3-pointers, finished the ball game with 14 points. And as I mentioned, next up, Saturday at Mississippi State. That is a 5 p.m. tip-off. Our radio coverage will start at 4 o'clock from Baumhauer's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa. So we certainly hope to have a lot of you there joining us for the broadcast coming up on Saturday. How about tonight for Alabama women's basketball? They are at home inside Coleman Coliseum, welcoming in the third-ranked team in the country, Texas A&M. Alabama has really looked strong lately, going back to Valentine's Day, that win against Auburn, followed by the road victory against Florida, then Senior Day against Mississippi State. Alabama certainly looked strong in that ball game on Sunday. Now they'll try and win 4 in a row as the Tide already have a pretty strong resume. 15-6 overall, 8-6 in the SEC. Usually any team that gets to 8 wins in league play makes it to the NCAA tournament, and that's something that Alabama is looking to do for the first time since 1999. Now, win tonight certainly would help cement the resume for Alabama, as Texas A&M has been playing as well as anybody. 20-1 on the season, 11-1 in the SEC. Their only loss was in overtime at LSU, so in regulation games this year, A&M has been undefeated. They have a roster full of transfers. It will be a great game coming up tonight inside Coleman Coliseum. At the Rhodes House, Alabama softball playing really well. Patrick Murphy's team 9-0 to begin the season. Yesterday had a dominant win, 7-1 against UAB. Kaylee Towle, for her great play this past weekend at the Bama Bash, she was named the SEC Softball Player of the Week. Hit 786 for the Crimson Tide over the weekend. That also included a big win against LSU, a run rule victory over them, which you don't see too often, as Coach Murphy's team really has it rolling. And they'll try and keep it going this weekend, welcoming in Kent State, UNI, and South Alabama. A very busy schedule for Alabama softball, all here in Tuscaloosa, so we look forward to more wins for Coach Murphy's group here in 2021. How about the baseball side of things? Already off to a 4-0 start. It was a Tuesday win against Jacksonville State 5-2. Wednesday did fall to UT Martin 9-4 after Alabama built up an early lead in that ball game, and that's coming after a great sweep over the weekend of McNeese. So solid work by Alabama baseball to begin the season. Now this weekend, the Crimson Tide at home once again at Sewell Thomas Stadium, hosting Wright State. You may be unfamiliar with Wright State, a team from Dayton, Ohio. They have won the Horizon League something like 5 of the last 10 years. They're picked to win the Horizon League again, so it's another opportunity for the Crimson Tide to keep bolstering their resume, looking down the road, trying to get back to the NCAA tournament and then hopefully to the College World Series in Omaha. As I mentioned earlier, Alabama volleyball back in action as the Crimson Tide have been 4-10 so far in the SEC. They were scheduled to play Auburn this past weekend, but Auburn is having to pause its season right now due to COVID issues in volleyball, so the Crimson Tide did not play this past weekend, but matches coming up this weekend against Mississippi State, and coming up in just a little bit, we'll hear from the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Lindsey Devine, kind of break down where her team is entering these two matches against the Bulldogs. In gymnastics, solid score for the Crimson Tide against LSU as Alabama got the win in the annual Power of Pink meet inside Coleman Coliseum. Now Friday, hitting the road, going to Arkansas. 7 p.m. start time you can watch on ESPNU. How about Luisa Blanco, named the SEC Gymnast of the Week after an outstanding all-around performance against LSU. Last but not least, the Alabama soccer team resumed play. We're having spring soccer this year, and it was Alabama getting a 2-0 victory over Columbus State last Friday in Tuscaloosa. They're back in action coming up this Friday, hosting Louisiana. As we're getting mostly non-conference matchups since there already has been an SEC champion, the Vanderbilt Commodores, already in the fall. Now it's kind of some non-conference matchups as everybody is still gearing up for the NCAA tournament. So we'll be Alabama against Louisiana on Friday at 5 p.m. at the Alabama Soccer Stadium, and we'll be hearing about where the Tide stand going into that matchup when we're joined later on in the show by Alabama head coach Wes Hart. So we start the interviews here on Crimson Drive with Araya Copeland, an outstanding senior from Columbus, Georgia, that's been a big part of this Alabama program ever since she stepped on campus. She's either been in a starting role or a key reserve role off the bench, and the last few years, certainly a starter for the Crimson Tide, as she, along with fellow seniors Jasmine Walker, Jordan Lewis, are forming what everybody around campus is calling the Big Three, because those three combine to score so many points, get so many rebounds, and they're helping get this program on the brink of their first NCAA tournament berth in over 20 years. So with all the excitement around women's basketball and the fact that we had senior day this past Sunday, yesterday I had a chance to catch up with Araya Copeland of the Alabama women's basketball team. Joined now by Araya Copeland of the Alabama women's basketball team. And Araya, how much fun has this season been? Alabama's playing at a really high level right now.
It's extremely fun, especially coming from my freshman year. We were always in that middle part of the SEC, and now we're up there this year, and we want to finish the season really strong.
Of course, last year, near the end of the season before the pandemic shut down sports in March, Alabama was also playing at a really high level, had those wins in College Station and Starkville. What do you remember about some of those wins?
Those are super exciting. I mean, we made history during that time, and just to be a part of that was a blessing. I mean, like I said, just when we started from was really great. We're trying to repeat that this year.
Certainly are. And of course, Alabama had a strong resume last year before the pandemic canceled the NCAA tournament. What do you remember about getting that news? And then what were the first few weeks of the pandemic like for you?
Oh, man. During that time, I think we were just practicing, getting ready to try to see where we were going to the NCAA or NIT. A lot of anxiety going on, but we got the news, and it was kind of a downer because, we were making some really good progress towards the end, and we were kind of hoping to be able to squeeze in that NCAA tournament, but that happened, and we were sent home thinking it was going to be maybe a week or two, that spring break, but ended up being 3 months, and it was tough. We couldn't really go anywhere. We were not together anymore, but Coach made sure that we were really still involved with each other. She gave us our space, but we still had a goal in mind, for next year, and I think that kind of helped us to where we are now.
Does it help as well bringing so many players back? There are some new faces on this year's roster, but this is a very familiar team, I imagine, for you all.
Yeah, it is. Bringing a lot of people back, especially Jordan, Jazz, D. Rice. We're all comfortable. We have this really strong relationship, and it shows on the court too.
It certainly does, and it's led to some great performances, not only for you, but your teammates as well. One of your teammates, Jasmine Walker, set a record with 41 points in the game at Auburn. Kind of what was your reaction when you saw in the fourth quarter she scores 21 points, was just shooting out of her mind?
I don't know. I knew at half she had 20, and I looked up again, and she had 37. I'm like, oh, Jazz is going for a 40 piece. I was excited for her. That's never happened before, and just to be able to witness that, be a part of that, was really amazing.
Certainly was. And of course, you guys had a great senior day at Coleman Coliseum with the last win against Mississippi State. First of all, just tell us about what the pregame ceremony meant to you. Couldn't have the family on the floor, but they were certainly involved in the festivities.
Yeah, it was different, not your regular, but we were still able to have one. I'm appreciative of that. But it did mean a lot just for our family to still be able to come out and see us. We got that big win over them, and got to celebrate, still in our own way. But I mean, I wouldn't change a thing about it. It was still really great.
Certainly was, as you had a great performance for the Crimson Tide. We've seen you get a lot of double doubles this season, and I'm sure you're proud of that because there's a rebounding part of it that goes along with the double as well, not just the scoring. What's the key to good rebounding?
You it's kind of like it's just a mindset. Like, hey, when the shot goes up, I'm gonna go get it. I'm gonna try to go get it. Even if you might not grab it, you can either tip it around somewhere, or you can make something happen. But I've been trying to work on that, from the beginning of the season. I think I made some good improvements, but they're always in my ear, like, hey, if you're not gonna score, go rebound. Vice versa, or do both. So that's my mindset on it.
And I'm sure you have a pretty positive mindset as well. Sometimes you are matched up against a player that may be an inch or so taller than you, but you got to like that challenge, I imagine.
Yeah, I do. I do. There are a lot of talks about good post players, but you have to show me, that you are what they say you are, and that's exciting. I think that goes for everybody else too. Like, hey, Alabama, they're a good team. We're gonna show you that we're a good team.
Alabama certainly is a good team, and a big reason why I think this year having so much success. I always love when Hannah Barber, Jordan Lewis are on the floor at the same time. Speaking of Hannah, for just a moment, what does she really bring to this offense? How does she keep it running well?
Oh man, she's so poised and she knows our offense from A to Z. She knows her spots, everybody else's spots. She's good with the ball. I mean, she really is just like our facilitator out there. Jordan too, but it kind of takes some pressure off of Jordan because we know that she's gonna give us that leadership, and that comfort in her having the ball in her hands a lot of the times.
That's got to make Alabama really tough to scout because Jordan runs the offense so well as well, and then at times she can take over and be that dynamic scorer.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
So again, you're now in your senior season here at the Capstone. Let's go back for just a moment to Columbus, Georgia. We see a lot of talent across the SEC from Columbus, Georgia. What can you tell us about some of the high school basketball that's there and now getting to reunite with some of those either former teammates or players you played against in the league?
It's always fun just kind of reunite. There's always that little competition, but being able to play against Kentucky, I played with Todd that goes there now. I have a couple people at Georgia that are there, and it's kind of fun to see that where we came from, being little kids in ninth grade, and we're playing SEC basketball right now. And I think the SEC is really tough. So I think that's a lot to do with just the competitiveness that we played against in high school. That we are all now in good positions in SEC basketball.
And of course, you come to the University of Alabama. What was the recruiting pitch by Coach Curry when she first met you?
She was so resilient. I mean, she talked to me. I talked to somebody from Alabama at least 3 or 4 times a week, and I thought that was really impressive. I wasn't getting that a lot from other schools, and she showed me that I want you. I want you to play a good part here. I want you to be successful, and I didn't really get that anywhere else. So she really made an impact on me.
Well, Alabama still has one home game left against Texas A&M. What's going to be important for you coming up against the Aggies?
Just to be able to finish the season strong. I mean, they're number 3 team in the country, but this is the next game for us, and we don't take it lightly. We're going to give you a fight regardless. And like I said, last year we gave them a upset, they call it. But I mean, I feel like we can do it again, and I'm ready to end the season on a really great note.
Do you feel like you all are playing your best basketball right now?
Absolutely, there's no question.
Well, that's certainly exciting for Crimson Tide fans because you all have the opportunity to do something really special. It hasn't been done here in a long, long time. And Araya, you've been a huge part of the success. So just thank you for joining us on Crimson Drive today. Best of luck in the last couple of regular season games you have coming up, and then the SEC and the NCAA tournament. Thanks again, and Roll Tide.
All right, thank you. I Roll Tide.
Fun to visit with Araya Copeland as she had her senior day on Sunday against Mississippi State. Had a great performance with a double-double, and now she and the fellow seniors get to enjoy this game tonight at Coleman Coliseum against Texas A&M against 6 p.m. start time. And then Final game of the regular season for the Crimson Tide coming up on Sunday at Arkansas. That'll be a 5 p.m. start time. We'll have both broadcasts for you available on the network. Don't forget the courtside cam available for tonight's game as well from Coleman Coliseum. But best of luck to Araya and the rest of the Crimson Tide tonight against Texas A&M here in Tuscaloosa. Another team that's back in action for the Crimson Tide is Alabama soccer. And again, normally around this time of the year, we're not talking about competitive games for Alabama. We're talking about spring practice and gearing up for the fall, but things have changed a little bit this season due to all the COVID-19 protocols, and with SEC only having a conference-only schedule back in the fall, now you're seeing some non-conference matchups, so Coach Hart having to get a little bit creative, and I spoke with him earlier in the week about some of those unique challenges that a spring soccer season is bringing. Joined now by Coach Hart. And Coach, when you and I normally talk around this time of the year, we're talking all about spring practice, but now we get to talk about spring games for the Crimson Tide. How's everything going for your group as you begin a new season of sorts here in 2021?
Yeah, a little bit different for sure, but exciting nonetheless. So we're excited that we've got a real spring season with meaningful matches, which isn't typical for us. Really happy where the group's at. We came back, fit and focused for the spring season, training hard, and the girls look good right now.
When we last talked back in either November or December, we kind of didn't know what the next steps might be like for spring soccer. So what can you tell us about how the schedule was put together and just the format for soccer this spring?
Yeah, the SEC gave us a lot of flexibility. Basically said, we did our SEC segment in the SEC championship segment in the fall. So they left it up to us to do what we wanted in the spring. They kind of gave us some flexible parameters that we had to follow. But basically, we kind of got to schedule as many games as we wanted. So we ended up scheduling 9 games for the spring. 7 against NCAA Division I opponents, 2 against Division II opponents. I think we've got four different Power 5 schools. We'll be playing Clemson, Texas Tech, Auburn, and Mississippi State. And then we've got some mid-majors that are very good, Lipscomb and in South Alabama, who are both conference champs. And then University of Louisiana Lafayette, who I believe finished top 4 in their conference. So got a pretty competitive schedule.
And it started for you last week against Columbus State here in Tuscaloosa, a 2-0 victory for the Crimson Tide. What are your big takeaways from last Friday?
First of all, the result was important for us. We want to get in the habit of winning games, and for us to be able to grind out a result in a game we didn't play particularly well in, that was important to us. But credit to Columbus State, they're a good team. So even though they're Division II, I would bet that they could beat a lot of Division I teams out there. They're constantly finishing in the top of their conference and compete for national championships at the Division II level. So it was a strong opponent that gave us a tough game. For us, just kind of shaking off the rust, of our first competitive action in a few months, and a roster that's pretty depleted at the moment. Between graduation and injuries, we only suited up. I believe we had 13 players suited up, and one of them was injured about 20 minutes into the game. So, for us to be able to kind of battle through, playing shorthanded and come out with a victory was certainly positive for us.
2-0 win for the Crimson Tide. What can you tell us about what led to the goals for Alabama in the match?
It's let me think. So, second half is when kind of the scoring action began. So, first half we were battling a pretty stiff wind, and there was times where we were kind of pinned in our own half a bit, trying to get out of the wind. But second half we had the wind at our backs and really kind of took over the game. Started creating more chances. The first one was a corner kick that Kat Rogers served in the box, and Macy Clem was able to get on the end of it. And then the second one, Allie Burke played a nice little through pass to Penny Smith, who I believe got her first action of the year. She was taken down in the box, and Felicia Knox converted the penalty kick.
So it led to a 2-0 win for Alabama, and on the other side of that, solid defense it seemed like for your group, and another fine performance by McKinley Crone. What's she giving you at keeper right now?
Yeah, I thought the defense was great. So, there were spells of the game, especially in the first half. Like I said, we were battling a pretty stiff wind. So there was, spells in the first half where we were pinned in a bit deep. But even though we were pinned in our own half, we really weren't, given them many chances. I think they had one solid look on a defensive mistake we made, a giveaway that led to one good chance for them, and McKinley Crone was there to clean that up. Aside from that, I thought the overall defensive effort, from all 11 players on the field was solid. So even though they had moments where they had good spells of possession or moments where they had territory, really didn't lead to much. We did a great job of shutting them down.
You mentioned your team needs to be healthy as you get ready for these next matches coming up. Can you give us just an injury report on where your roster stands right now in terms of health?
Yeah, it's going to be thin throughout the spring. So, normally for us, we typically try to graduate our seniors in, December, so that we can, free up that scholarship money and bring in early enrollees, which we do every year. We try to bring in 5, 6, 7 early enrollees to get them ready for the fall. This year kind of bit us in the butt a little bit because we've got 7 players going out the door, and our 5 early enrollees this year aren't able to play because of the NCAA rules, because they're considering this one long year. They're not allowing mid-year enrollees to play for the first time ever. So kind of bit us a little bit. We've got five players here on campus that I know would help us tremendously this spring, but unfortunately they can't play. So it's left us in a situation where we'll be quite thin for all the games. But for us, we're looking at as a unique challenge, an opportunity for us to first of all, players to get a ton of playing time. Shouldn't be anyone complaining about playing time this spring, but it's going to be a challenge trying to manage the group, and might be different strategies throughout the spring. There may be more sitting in. Typically we try to high press, and I don't know that we'll be able to do that in some of these games when we've got 12, 13 bodies. I don't think we can high press for 90 minutes. So could see us dropping off a little bit more and taking a little bit of a lower defensive shape. Just trying different things that maybe we wouldn't do in a normal year.
Playing so much throughout the spring in these organized games, and again, there's obviously always spring soccer with some matches, but not quite like this in a competitive setting like we're seeing. How does it change things for the summer, getting prepared for what the fall schedule may look like?
To be honest, we're kind of treating this spring, even though these are meaningful games that count on your record, whereas a typical spring doesn't. We're kind of at a point where we're already looking at this as preparation for the fall season. We're going to be trying some things. I mentioned, trying to take different defensive shapes, trying players in different positions. We're using this as, how can we use this to prepare us for the fall season. So, because of our record in the fall, didn't go as planned, and because the NCAA, cut the NCAA tournament field, down from 64 to 48 teams. The chances of us making the NCAA tournament are pretty slim at this point. So we're looking at this as an opportunity for, how can we start preparing for the fall.
And one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, last fall we didn't have a chance to do it on one of our shows. We got to see Sarah Fuller make the transition from playing for Vanderbilt soccer to the football team near the end of the season for the Vanderbilt Commodores. Just what was your reaction when you saw that she was going to, after be playing and had a great run in the SEC tournament, all of a sudden play for the football team? What was your reaction to that?
Yeah, it was a pretty incredible story, for her to, I don't know, kind of pave the way and, kind of be a trendsetter and, show that, females can do just about anything they want to do. So I thought that was great for Sarah and great for female athletes in general.
Have you had any players before that have maybe played some high school football, have been point after specialists or anything like that?
Yeah, funny story. Reina Reyes actually played football, and I think it was middle school. I don't believe it was high school. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know for a fact, I think she was more than just a place kicker as well. Okay. I think she might have actually been on the field, but I don't know that for a fact. I think that's what I remember hearing. Aside from that, as far as football players, I gotta believe that at least one or two players over the years have done kicking or something like that.
Well, it's certainly good to hear. Getting ready for this upcoming match against Louisiana, what do you want to see on Friday from the Crimson Tide?
Yeah, just kind of building off of last week. An emphasis on finding a way to get a result. Again, we'll be shorthanded, but a great opportunity for players to get playing time and us to try to solve things. And I'd love to see a little bit more creativity in our attack, a little bit more activity and movement, and getting behind Louisiana Lafayette. So a bit more punch on the attacking side is what I would be looking for, but also building off of the strong defensive effort from last week and getting us another shutout.
Coach, thank you for joining us. Roll Tide. Best of luck coming up later this week against the Raging Cajuns.
Awesome, Roger. Roll Tide.
Thanks to Coach Hart for the time. And yeah, we're going to have to visit with Raina Reyes here more about maybe her middle school football playing days. And also right now she's been participating with the Mexican national team, gearing up for some competition later on this year. So a lot of exciting things for Alabama soccer. And we certainly thank Coach Hart for his time. His sport going in the spring, we're not used to seeing that, just like volleyball playing competitive matches in the spring. And Lindsey Devine's volleyball team continuing SEC play. Didn't play last weekend with Auburn having a pause due to COVID concerns down on the plains, but Crimson Tide back in action this Friday and Saturday at Foster Auditorium against Mississippi State. Really enjoyed my conversation from earlier in the week with Alabama volleyball coach Lindsey Devine. Joined now by Coach Devine, and Coach, it's exciting that Alabama volleyball returns home to Foster Auditorium coming up this weekend. Just what can you tell us about the last few weeks for the Crimson Tide?
We've been working hard. When we had the bye week because of Auburn opting out, that allowed us to focus in on the things that we recognize as some areas that we needed some improvement. So I've been really pleased with the approach, the commitment, the time that the players are staying afterwards and trying to work out those few kinks. So it's been a great couple of weeks to prepare here for Mississippi State.
Certainly looking forward to it. And looking back at the spring schedule we've seen so far, started with South Carolina. Just what did you notice, first of all, about that weekend that led into some great matches at Ole Miss?
Yes, I mean, overall, it's been a transformation. And so, we've been working with a different lineup as of the last couple of weeks. But from South Carolina to where we were at Ole Miss and even going into Arkansas, I love the commitment that the players are putting and the premium they're putting on serving, and just the talking and making sure that they're identifying angles, that they're talking and giving, the back rows, giving the front row some information to help them be more successful. And then just the work ethic, we are touching a lot more balls in our defense. And so they're getting after it. And I can't be more proud of the fact of how much they understand that defenses could possibly really be that decider that wins our games.
That's certainly important, and that certainly helped you again against Ole Miss. Got a couple of wins in Oxford. What can you tell us about those two matches?
Well, there was a grind, going 5-setter back-to-back nights was tough on the players, but some shining stars came out, such as Abby. Abby hasn't really had a lot of opportunity to be in the back row, be a primary passer, but I was really pleased with the fact of how she kept her composure and was really a huge impact in the front row. Another part of that offense was Aaliyah Wells. Again, Aaliyah Wells really did a fantastic job of exposing some holes. Overall, I was pleased with how our block set up, and it was just the approach to don't let the ball fall on the ground. Bottom line from our defensive players. And when it was tight and tough, in those tough moments, I think where we kind of pushed through was our mental approach. And we were a little stronger. People came in off the bench. Taylor Drop was phenomenal from the service line. Vic came through at the very end on day 2, match 2, a huge swing. And then Abby, she has such good court awareness, was able to put the ball over. So, it's just a combination of really good things that we have seen carry over from practice. We saw them in the Ole Miss game. We saw them at moments against Arkansas, and we got to build upon that to make sure we see that this weekend versus Mississippi State.
And with the new lineup, how's the chemistry right now on your team?
Amazing. We recognize that we are short in numbers, small in numbers, but we are mighty in our heart, and we are very connected. Like I said, from the communication, players recognizing that, hey, I might be playing in a different position, but I got to put the time in. And so they're coming in on their own, doing those extra reps. That is so initiated by our leaders, our captains, but it's also initiated by the player themselves. So again, from a coaching perspective, the staff is super proud of how they are approaching scouting reports and doing the extras for the team.
And I'm sure that extends beyond the volleyball court as well in the classroom, because so many times volleyball players, get their schedules ready for the year. They have their hardest classes in the spring when they're not usually playing competitive matches. How has that changed as they're trying to play competitive matches and still be competitive in the classroom as well?
Well, one of our huge focuses for our team has always been academics. And so this team, it's just part of who they are and, how they approach their classes. They're on time. We were really proud to recognize some SEC honor roll people such as Aaliyah Wells, Katie Shook, Emily Yannick, and Taylor Draft. So that commitment that they show in their classroom is carrying over into leading the way for all of our newcomers. And again, academics is important. And so they're showing what they can do in the classroom.
That's certainly exciting. And now exciting as well, you get to be in Tuscaloosa coming up this weekend, welcoming in Mississippi State. Just what's the focus and practice getting ready for the Bulldogs?
Well, trying to work on our side of the net. We know our scouting report, we know their tendencies, but with this different lineup, it's just working out the kinks, the communication. What can we run on this situation? How can we side out a lot faster? When we get the ball back on serving, point scoring, going on runs. So combining all those things, making sure that we are aware. They have number 8, Gabby Wadden, who's done a phenomenal job for Mississippi State. I know that Julie Doherty is really pleased with her and how she's producing her numbers. Also, they have a middle, Jessica Kemp, number 5, who is really doing a fantastic job again for them on the blocking side. And we got to be aware of her in trans. So they got some things that they're doing well. But when the ball crosses the net, I know that everybody says it's us. It's on us. Can we execute when it's time under pressure? And I think that our team is going to be up for that challenge.
Fired up to be back inside Foster Auditorium for some matches. It was the end of January for the South Carolina matches. It's been a complete month. Now you're back at home finally.
I know, and the nice weather. We're pretty lucky to be here back home in front of our home crowd, with the open, open seating here in Foster. So we're looking forward to being home, kind of sleeping in our beds, kind of going through our routines. Foster's home to us, so we got to take advantage of that and show that pride that we have in owning our home court.
Well, we're certainly looking forward to it. Again, it's Alabama against Mississippi State coming up this weekend. Just Coach Devine, thank you for joining us. Best of luck against the Bulldogs, and Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, Roger. Thank you so much.
Good luck to Coach Devine and the Crimson Tide volleyball team. Again, returning to action this weekend at Foster Auditorium as they continue play with spring volleyball. Well, last night there was a lot on the line in Fayetteville, Arkansas in men's basketball between Alabama and Arkansas, the 6th-ranked Crimson Tide against the 20th-ranked Arkansas Razorbacks. Arkansas in second place in the SEC, Alabama in first. So if the Tide would have won that ball game, Alabama would have clinched the SEC regular season championship outright. And now Alabama's still win away from clinching at least a share of the title. Still a lot working in Alabama's favor as we still have plenty of games left to go this season in the regular season. But a tough night nonetheless in Fayetteville as Alabama falls on the road to the Razorbacks at Bud Walton Arena. So now we'll let you listen into the post-game press conference from Nate Oates and a lot of questions about the officiating. John Petty was ejected late in the ball game, so a lot for Coach Oates to discuss as he met with the media after last night's game in Fayetteville.
Disappointing loss. Arkansas outplayed us. They were ready to go. They seemed like every loose ball they were getting, they made some tough plays. We struggled shooting out of the gate. And then, Bruner kind of got us back in it with some made threes, and him and Petty kind of got going. But we didn't end up shooting it terrible from three. We ended up at 33%, which should be good enough to win if our defense was a little bit better. But, we got to be able to defend without fouling. We had a season high in fouls, season high 43 free. You can't put them to the line 43 times and expect to win a game. So we need to do a better job on the defensive end. We need to do a better job on the offensive end. The turnovers kind of came back to bite. We were upside down assisted turnovers, 14-16. And so we had way too many turnovers, was not some of our guys' better games tonight. So great chance to win the conference on the road at, the second place team in the league. Didn't take advantage of it. We've got a chance to clinch, I believe, at least a share of it Saturday. Is that correct? Yeah. So if we, we got to go in and win a road game at Mississippi State now to win the league.
Thank you, Coach. So Roger, we'll take questions, use the raise hand function. We'll get to questions at some point in time. Let's start with Cecil Hurt.
Coach, with as many fouls as you committed, as were called, was it difficult to get any kind of rhythm with a lineup, with what you were trying to do offensively?
Yeah, it was really hard. I mean, Shaq had 3 fouls in the first half. Herb's in foul trouble in the first half. Multiple guys with 2 in the first half. You're trying to figure out who to play. Certain guys aren't playing well. Some of the guys that maybe typically would play well, you got Herb and Shaq in foul trouble. You'd like to play them more, and we're down. So it was tough. I mean, been on talking to her about, he fouled out in, I think, under 19 minutes the last game. Now it's 24 minutes. He fouls out. Like, we need him in the game for more than 20 to 24 minutes. Like, so we got to do better. The charges are tough, he driving the ball downhill, but it's some of the other, stuff where you're out of position. I think we fouled a 3-point shooter 3 times, at least 3. Might have been even more, which is the worst play in basketball, in my opinion. I mean, the points per possession on that play is awful. So, and some of those, our guys were late, not locked into what they needed to do defensively, and we kept putting them the free throw line.
Tony Tsoukalas.
Nate, this is kind of going back to the last game at home, but after the game, I saw you talk with Joshua Primo. He seems like he struggles again. What do you tell a young guy like that when, he has back-to-back games like that? And what were you telling him on the court following that game, I guess, against Vanderbilt?
I just told him he's got to worry about the stuff he can control. I think some of those young guys get caught up in shot attempts, points. I'm not necessarily saying it's him, but, or if they shoot it poorly, but the stuff you can really control is your effort, your defensive intensity, your rebounding. And typically when you get lost in the game, just playing hard, doing all that, then the offense starts to flow. So that's what I tried to tell him. I thought he had a couple of good practices. You saw him play aggressive in the second half. He just got to get a little better defensively for us. Got to rebound the ball a little bit better for us. He's a big guard, athletic. He had 3 rebounds in 18 and a half minutes, which, he wasn't by far the worst defender. I mean, we had other guys that didn't rebound at all tonight. But, you look at a guy like Juwan Gary, who's playing under 17 minutes, 9 points, 9 rebounds. Like, we got to get I think if everybody just plays with that kind of energy Juwan had, and then the points will take care of themselves. The shots will come. That's what I told him. I mean, he's a great kid. He works hard. He's in the gym all the time. He's way too good. He puts in way too much work not to be great. But, I told our guys after the game, even tonight, like, I thought we had a lot of guys worrying about the officiating. Well, we have no control over the officiating. So if you're going to worry about stuff you got no control over, not very good at the stuff you do have control over, and we weren't very good at some of that stuff tonight. So got to quit worrying about the officiating. They're going to officiate the game the way they're going to officiate it, and we got to worry about what we can control, and we got to do a better job of that.
Michael Casgrande, you're next.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of discussion, I guess, among the fan base about the 43-8 foul shot disparity. What are your thoughts on that? How do you explain that?
I mean, I'm not trying to give any money back to anybody, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. I mean, part of it is, I mean, we were fouling some. Like, we got to move our feet. We got to get in position. We got to try not to foul on 3-point shooters. We got to, we got some technicals. The one kind of counterbalance there is with JQ, but the other 2 they shot 4 free throws off of. So, I thought, we shot a lot more threes than them, but I thought a lot of our threes came off some drives and kicks, and I thought maybe on some drives we got to do a better job trying to get fouled on our drives, like they were getting fouled on their drives, I guess. So.
Go to Tyler Martin next.
Hey, Nate, you kind of mentioned him when you answered Tony's questions, but Juwan Gary, just how big was it for him to, come back from the shoulder injury and especially in the first half, helping you guys get going?
He's big, 9 points, 9 rebounds in 16 and a half minutes. His effort was great. He had 4 old boards. I mean, he was all over the place. He's playing hard. Like we got to get some more guys play that hard, and Juwan's just, I mean, it's kind of his deal. He's an effort guy. He's a high energy guy, athletic. He goes hard. So some of our more skilled guys, if they played that hard, they some of those points and stuff would take care of themselves if you went as hard as Juwan did. So it's great to have him back. He gave us solid minutes.
Let's go to Catherine Gibraltar next.
Hey, Coach. I was just wondering, what positives can you take away from tonight's game, and what can you focus on to get ready for Mississippi State on Saturday?
I mean, there wasn't a whole lot positive, in my opinion, tonight. I mean, Juwan Gary was a positive, first game back. Jordan Bruner was a positive. He looked a lot more comfortable. When he hit those 4 threes in the first half, kind of got us back to, to a 1-point game. So guys coming off injuries, that was good to see Bruner and Juwan play as well as they did. Other than that, it wasn't a whole lot positive. Going into Mississippi State, we got to do better. We got to play harder. We got to come in more focused. We can't get out tough like I thought we did when there's a loose ball. We got to get on the floor and get a loose ball. Herb fouled out trying to get a loose ball, but we had other guys that had multiple opportunities to get on the floor and refuse to do so at points during the game. So if we're going to do that against Mississippi State, we'll lose there. I mean, they're a tough, hard-nosed team that rebounds it well, and we're going to have to play a lot better if we're planning on getting a win there.
Okay, we'll finish up here with Cecil Hurd. Last question.
There's a minute and 1 left, and I'm sure that John was frustrated to get when he got the second technical. What did you see? Sort of what transpired right there?
I mean, they had
with a minute left.
Yeah, I know what the player you're talking about. They had him in a trap. John didn't think he fouled him. I didn't either. I'd have to look at the replay to see for sure. But, I think when the ref called the foul on him, he was a little frustrated. I think, he maybe felt like he'd gotten bumped on some earlier and didn't get called. It's a tough game. I mean, there's a lot of contact, and we got called for a lot of fouls. And he said something he shouldn't have said to the refs. I don't know what it was, but obviously he shouldn't have said it. So got hit with his second tee, and and I'll say this: like those guys, those seniors, him, Reese, Herb, haven't won here. They were really keyed into trying to win. Here for the first time since they've been here. I thought Petty played pretty hard. I thought Herb gave us pretty good effort too, to be honest with you. So, it's frustrating for them not to be able to get a win at a place like this. And I understand his frustration level because we didn't play particularly well, but we've got to, we kind of huddled up there after he got thrown out of the game. And some of our guys were talking about finishing the game in the right way with some, class. And, I thought our guys were good in that huddle. I tried to make the point to them too. And I when they started talking about that, I kind of let them talk and just reiterated that, we will get a chance to see these guys in the SEC tournament if things go well. And, we get a chance then. But at that point, the game was just about over. I mean, it would have been almost impossible to come back at that point. You just got to finish the game, show some character and some class, and just finish it out the right way.
So those were the post-game comments from Coach Oates after the Crimson Tide fell at Arkansas last night. And again, still a chance for Alabama to clinch at least a share of the SEC regular season championship coming up on Saturday when the Tide take on Mississippi State. Perfect segue into taking a look at the weekend schedule because once again, we have a very busy schedule across the network for a variety of Alabama sports. Looking at the schedule, of course, tonight against Texas A&M and women's basketball, 6 p.m. Don't forget, you can come right back here to the CTSN Facebook page and watch the courtside cam. And then, of course, on the radio as well, starting at 5:55, getting ready for the Crimson Tide and the Aggies in the final home game of the year for Christy Curry's Crimson Tide. And then the regular season comes to a close at Arkansas at 5 p.m. on Sunday on the radio as well. And then the women's basketball team heading to Greenville, South Carolina, getting ready for the SEC tournament. So really exciting time for the women's basketball team. Men's basketball team, again, with that opportunity at Mississippi State at 5 p.m. 4 p.m. airtime from Baumhower's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa. Again, you have a chance to come to the ball game, plenty of screens to watch the game, and then get to listen to Chris Stewart, Brian Passink, Tom Stipe, myself call the ball game, and you can supply the crowd noise. Certainly had that at our Baumhower's location in Vestavia last night. Great energy behind the Crimson Tide, so we're looking forward to having that same type of energy, same type of crowd coming up in Tuscaloosa on Saturday. Baseball's at home this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Just remember, 3, 2, 1, getting you ready for the weekend schedule against Wright State. Again, a team that has picked to win their conference, so that means they'll have a chance in the NCAA tournament. So Alabama really could use 3 wins this weekend against Wright State. Make sure you listen to the CTSN for all of those games, as well as softball. A busy time at the Rhodes House with Kent State, UNI, South Alabama, all in front. Doubleheaders on Friday and Saturday, and then the game against South Alabama to round out the weekend coming up on Sunday. And not on the schedule here because we don't have a CTSN broadcast, but don't forget, Gymnastics is at Arkansas. You've got Alabama volleyball and soccer home as well this weekend here on campus at Alabama. So that's all part of what's a very busy weekend schedule for everybody in Crimson Tide Athletics. Well, it's been a great edition of Crimson Drive presented to you by Regions Bank. Don't forget, you can show your team pride by having the new Regions Bank University of Alabama National Champions Visa check card and checks from Regions Bank. Just go to regions.com/GoBama to order yours today. Regions Bank is the official bank of the Southeastern Conference. We'll be back next week with another edition of Crimson Drive, but we certainly thank all of you for watching on this Thursday afternoon, and all the best to the Crimson Tide athletics teams that are hitting the field or the court coming up this weekend as part of a very busy weekend of Alabama athletics. Until next time, and our next time again will be women's basketball at 6 p.m. tonight. Until then, so long, roll tide, everyone.